Welcome back to the Open Mic Broadcast Network. We have our football expert on the line with us today, Coach Heist Northern. Coach, how you doing today, sir?
Hey, man, everything going pretty good. I'm doing a couple of things around the house. My kids and got a year older. Both of them celebrated their birthdays last week, and I've been following some high school baseball and watching a little bit of UFL games. But other than that, and trying to keep up with where all these kids are going, that's either getting in or getting out of the transfer portal. So it's gonna make a interesting next couple of days and weeks for these college football coaches.
No doubt about it, sir. You talk about baseball. When we touch on the SWAC just for a moment here, there's been a big turnaround on things in that West division of the conference. Texas Southern swept your Jags, man, 4 games, man, and they're now sitting on top. And it's going to be a big matchup this weekend between Prairie View and the Jags, man, on the heels. So it should be a very interesting series that can determine the future of the conference.
Yeah, and I've been keeping up with it. I know, my sister and I mess with each other because she's a Grambling grad, and Southern went up there and swept Grambling. After they beat LSU, then they come down to Houston and lose 3 games in a row to the Texas Southern Tigers. Now they have to come back out to Houston, the Houston area, and face the Prairie View Panthers. So it's going to make an interesting week because if you think about it, the last 3 weekends a different team has been leading the West in baseball between Grambling, Southern, and now Texas Southern. And depending on what happens with the Prairie View series, that can change as well as whoever Texas Southern has this weekend. So it can be interesting next couple of weeks before the SWAC tournament begins play.
No doubt about it. And I know people say, yeah, he talks about baseball all the time. Let's talk about this football stuff. You got this east side we're going to try to touch on. Like you say, it's really about the same script, but just a different location. Guys are going to be close to the vest, not really going to have anyone saying, man, we had a terrible spring. I don't know what we look like. We don't look like what we know what we're doing, but you still have to report on these things. And what do you have for us with that being duly noted?
Well, I'll put it like this. So a lot of people, just say, for instance, Texas's spring game was broadcast nationally because they have the Ewers kid and they have the Manning kid. So if you look at the numbers, both of those guys had outstanding passing days. So when you go back and look at it, is Texas offense that good or is their defense that bad? So it's a lot of things that you can take from not only the spring game, but what most people look at are the spring practices. If you have 15 spring practices, you can boil it down to 12 because 3 of them are in shorts, pretty much shorts and shoulder pads only. So of those 12 real practices / scrimmages, you want to see is your offense dominant, defense dominant, or is it a 50-50? Some days offense is going to win, some days defense is going to win, some days offense may win the running part of practice, and defense may win the pass scaling part of practice. Some teams do blitz pickup every day, so the offense may dominate a blitz pickup one day, and the next day defense may get 2 or 3 interceptions during that 10 to 15 play scripted period. So a lot of people look at it that way. So on the eastern side, it's been some good play, mostly by the defenses, because quite a few of those offensive coordinators have come in, and then you try to find those bright spots. Okay, Alabama State had to find a wide receiver to replace the Keyshawn Johnson kid. So, were they able to find someone to do that? And then the thing about it is, they may say, okay, we found the guy, but because he did so well or put something on social media or he started last year, is he going to enter the transfer portal? So that's what a lot of people are actually trying to guard against, the returning guys putting stuff out there on either social media or in the portal, and then they get picked up by someone else. So that's that's what a lot of schools are going through right now, from the good spring game, good spring practices, who dominated the spring practice side, and are we going to be able to keep our guys, especially our first and second year guys that may have had a good year, decided to come back, but now they may decide to enter the portal once spring football is over with.
Okay, it's ironic that you mentioned Alabama State. Are you hearing any reports on Andrew Body and how he looked or didn't look during his debut?
Well, I'll say no. So, I'll leave it at a no for right now. But from what I'll put it like this: from what I'm hearing, he is doing well. But I think it's going to be some adjustments made because they did not find the receivers that they thought that they were going to have to replace Johnson, if you understand what I'm saying. He is doing okay, but the surrounding cast is not what they thought they were going to be able to have. Like, say, if Keyshawn goes back, it is a whole different ball game because, they have a guy that's going to give you, 80 to 100 catches a year. And then the good thing about Keyshawn, he gives you that yard after catch that a lot of guys, they may give you just speed, but they don't give you the yards after catch up there.
Okay, well, let me put it like this. Could it be fool's gold 50-50? Body not as what they anticipated, and Body did inherit what he thought he would?
I would say somewhat yes.
Okay, then. Well, that's good enough.
And I'll put it like this: I think they are happy, but not, like you say, no brainer in terms of the surrounding cast. I'll put it like that, because the surrounding cast can mean a lot for a quarterback, whether it's the O-line protection, the picking up the scheme, the wide receivers. If you got a good running game, that's going to make your quarterback better 9 times out, until you get to somebody that can say, okay, we're going to play man-to-man. Now you have to beat us throwing the football.
Right. Well, as they say, to be continued. How about that?
Yes, sir.
We know that the draft is coming up, and it's not common that our guys, I'm talking about HBCU, SWAC in particular, get drafted in that first day, the first couple of days, usually at a third day, or a free agent walk-on, this, that, and the other. What's the mental approach as these guys get ready for the draft from that SWAC perspective?
Well, I think the biggest thing, you have to be a realist in terms of what did you do on film, and then what did you do on your pro day? Because some guys, the pro days may matter more than what you did on film, because having sat in personnel meetings in NFL with different NFL teams, they all feel like if we get a fast guy, we can teach them football. We can coach them up. That's their thought process. And some teams more than others. Some teams may actually look at a guy's transcript. Just say a team like New England, especially on the defensive side of the ball when Belichick was there, they would actually look at a guy's transcript to see, can this guy handle the adjustments that we're going to make on a week-to-week, game-to-game, series-to-series basis. So it's important that you have intelligence along with being a tough football player. They didn't care so much about speed. Yeah, they wanted speed, but their whole thing was, we're going to get some tough guys that can make adjustments on the fly and be able to handle it. So the speed aspect is one. If you didn't have an outstanding 40 time on a good agility drills, or people were not asking to talk to you after your pro day was over with, then you can pretty much hang up playing in the NFL. But if you put a good 40 time, you have some decent numbers, and maybe in terms of sacks, interceptions, passes broken up, number of tackles, or if you're an offensive lineman, are you that 6'4" to 6'7" guy that's, in that 300 to 330 pound range, where they feel like, okay, he's athletic, has long arms, got big hips, and be able to play football. And like, teams are looking at that. They are looking at how big your ankles are in comparison to your calves, what's your hip to shoulder ratio? It's a whole lot of stuff that certain teams are looking at to see, can we take this raw, unfinished product and make something of it? So if you didn't get the numbers on your pro day, you can pretty much hang it up. Now, the guys that have their numbers, they're going to get some projections. The agent is going to give them some projections. Okay, we're hearing anywhere between 5th and 7th round. If you hear anywhere between 5th and 7th round, if you're a 1AA FCS guy, you might as well start thinking free agency and where, if I get to pick and choose where I'm going to go, where do I want to go? And maybe some teams that have had success with free agents in the past coming in and be able to make the team, do I go that route with certain teams, or look at, okay, just say the Saints have 8 returning linebackers. They normally keep 10. Do I have a good chance of going out and beating 2 guys? And, it's all those things that teams, agents, and players look at before deciding. But I would say if you're a 5th or 7th round pick, you almost want to be a free agent, minus you don't get that sort of guaranteed signing bonus type of deal.
When you made that reference of how some of these programs operate, there were 3 teams that stood out to me that had what I call a tendency to lean toward HBCU players, and that would be the Raiders, the Packers, and the Rams from time, at least the last 10 years or so. And I know it can change. There are a lot of guys, I think about how Cleveland took chances with the running back out of Alabama State. His name is escaping me right now. But there's always hope. And then you got some guys, even though they would look at it as, I guess, second prize, the Canadian Football League. There are a lot of opportunities, even though there are limited spots for those Canadian teams for the way their system is set up.
Yeah, if you think about it, and the Raiders was actually one of the teams that I interned with. And when I was up there, I want to say they had 2 HBCU guys. I know they had the defensive lineman from Texas Southern that was there, because that's the group that I worked with when I was up there. And I want to say they had an offensive lineman from one of the MEAC schools. But, the Raiders had a long tradition of HBCU guys going back to when Al Davis was actually coaching, and certain general managers, because his biggest thing was speed. If you had speed, you could go play for the Raiders. If you couldn't play for nobody else. But the thing about the Raiders, they had success with HBCU guys, the Art Shells. We call him the old man Willie from Grambling, the defensive back that's on all the NFL film. Sir?
Willie Davis, right?
Yeah. Man, I could see his name because I sat in meeting. And the thing about
Willie Brown. Willie Brown.
Willie Brown, that's him. Yeah, old man Brown. So, and actually, when I went up there, because he knew I had coached at Grambling, it's like he took me under his wing, and I was coaching at Prairie View. Then, like I say, because we're talking about, I can't remember, the running back from Prairie View was still around up there when I went.
Clem Daniels?
Clem Daniels, yes, sir. So it was all those HBCU guys that were up there working that were still around that, tried to bring in other HBCU guys. And like I said before, even the guys that played for the Raiders, especially the guys from the South, would say, man, we need some more SWAC guys. Forget all these fast guys. We know the SWAC dudes going to be hungry when they get here. So, and then you think about the Packers and their history of getting HBCU ball players and going up there and playing well for them. So it's certain teams. I remember when Doug was with Doug Williams was with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, when they had the quote-unquote open tryouts, or they were just signing guys to free agent contracts to work out with the team for the trial/free agent days, it would be a whole lot of HBCU guys that were in that number. That was his way of giving back. But at the same time, he would tell them, look, man, I'm not bringing you here to give you money. I'm bringing you here to give you an opportunity, because I know sometimes guys at those schools don't get the opportunities that other guys with the same exact measurables, I'm talking about 40 times, interceptions, same numbers, don't get, because they didn't go to a bigger school. Because they would always say, I would rather, if I'm going to miss I'm gonna miss on a guy from a big school, not a small school.
Right. So it's like I said, the land of opportunity is still around, and dreams and hopes that are going. And of course, you mentioned the UFL. With the way things appear to be shaping up with this realignment with the USFL and the XFL, it's looking like this might be some stability, which could be another avenue for some HBCU players to continue playing past their college days.
Yes, it is. The thing is, it's going to have to get some more fans in those seats. Some of the teams are doing much better than others in terms of attendance, but I know some of those games are being watched because people still missing football. The NBA playoffs hadn't heated up. College basketball is over. The women's college tournament is over. So the next thing that it'll probably pick up a little bit until the College World Series, and then the NBA Finals will pick up. But those UFL games will be, I think, greatly watched. But we still gonna have to get some more butts in the seats. But at the same time, you have to hope that they don't revert to the old NFL model of if we missing on big schools, Power 5 guys, as opposed to giving some the Division II all conference players, some SWAC and MEAC guys, a chance to get on the roster, because those rosters are not big right now.
Right. The rosters are not big, and in comparison to NFL pay, the salaries are not big neither. And you would think that some guys, because of their big boy presence from those Power 4 schools and other schools, might frown on looking at the UFL. But if they're hungry enough, they'll accept that as an opportunity as well.
Yes, and I've even noticed some guys. I don't know if you remember the safety DJ Swearinger that played for the Texans for a minute. I saw he was playing on one of the UFL teams. So some guys are still trying to get that second sniff at an NFL roster spot, and some guys are trying to get that first of, all right, let me play a little bit more, get some more film on tape, get some good numbers up, and get into a camp somewhere. But the thing about it is, and it's going to hurt some of the older guys, whereas some people will say, we'll take a free agent and don't have to give him as much money, rookie free agent, as we would a guy that's been in the league that will have to get the veteran minimum. So it's a lot of politics and money that comes into play when you talk about free agents, guys that are not on the roster that's trying to get back in, when they can, and they'll say it. They might not say it out loud, but they'll say it to each other. Why pay a guy a minimum of $600,000 when we can find a guy that's very similar and pay him $250,000 to do the same job?
Right. Well, and I was thinking as you were speaking, do you see, for security of the UFL and preserving of the NFL's, future status or stock coming up through the system, that they kind of adopt this UFL and even underwrite it with some funding as a minor league system?
I think that's going to end up happening to a certain extent, because part of it is if the NFL sort of signs off on it, if those guys just say down the line start having similar injuries as NFL players, then they'll be able to sue the NFL, even though they didn't, quote-unquote, play in the NFL. So from what I'm understanding, that is a part of it. That may be why they haven't signed on yet. But I think they are looking at it because a lot of those guys that are coaching UFL teams have NFL ties. And then the other part of it is you can bet that the NFL teams are doing much like the Power 5 guys are treating the transfer portal, and they're going to have guys that say, and it's going to be some of the younger guys in the scouting department, hey, you are responsible for the San Antonio and the Houston UFL teams. Another guy may be responsible for 2 million. Look at those games, or go check out a practice, and let us know who's doing well and who may deserve a roster spot. If we're looking for a guy at a certain position, is there someone out there that's on the UFL roster that we can bring in immediately? Because they're going to be in better shape 9 times out of 10 than an NFL free agent that may have played 2 years and got cut or something like that. So it's some of that going on where the NFL teams are, quote unquote, watching / scouting those games for particular bodies if they get put into a bind.
Yes, sir. Well, one of the things that I'm thinking, Coach, that could possibly help with the in-person attendance of the UFL, I personally think that they need to strategically place these teams in towns that do not have an NFL affiliation and more smaller rural communities where their people are passionate about football. And I'm thinking more along that Midwest heartbeat of the country, and you could still get the attendance, the excitement, the interest, and keep the system and the league alive and growing.
Yes. Like I said, if you think about a place like San Antonio, probably is a perfect place to have a team because they want the football experience, but they don't have it, and the college football presence is not very big there as well. UTSA is getting better, but it's not the same draw as A&M or Texas. And then some of those other towns, even some of the cities that may have had an NFL team but no longer have them, but they still may have a stadium. You take a team like St. Louis where they still have somewhere to play, or some of the cities that may have soccer teams that have a stadium that they can play at as well. So it's a lot of those things that they can do / use to improve on it. And where I would start at is another marketing thing is start at the high school, elementary school level and make some of those tickets, as cheap as possible and get them through the door. And, you can make your money off merchandise, almost like a Savannah Bananas minor league baseball team. You're not going to get to that level of, I would say, silliness, but the marketing department that they have is outstanding. Get guys in there, get kids in there, and we're going to have $2 hot dogs, $1 sodas. And for a family of 4 or 5, if you're spending $10 on the ticket, you can get in and out the door for less than $100. But if you go to an NFL game, you can't get in the door for one person with $100. If you see what I'm saying, make it almost like a FCS college type environment where you're not busting people head to the white meat, get money out their pocket, and they can afford to get in the game and afford to get the snacks and don't make parking $50 to $60 or $100. You make it affordable for the families, and then you get some loyalty, as we say in the biz, some in-kind build up, and then on the back end, those fans that you start out with as youngsters now become have a rooting interest in your team or franchise.
Absolutely, and that's why I was saying you create like a minor league system with the whole total package of experience. And I think it will survive like that because it was someone, it might have been you I was talking to, that think that the NFL could one day even expand to 40 teams. I think that's a bit overload.
Yeah.
But if you got the system set up as this minor league system, it's a win-win situation for the would-be athlete, for that fan that's hungry for football and can support football. They might not be a large metropolis, but they got enough passion and willing to spend the dollars that it would take to support a minor league system.
Yes. I think, getting the 40s, I think, going to be a stretch because the other thing that happens with the revenue sharing, some of those owners are not going to want to divide the pie with either a newcomer or a smaller market team.
Right. Well, there's a lot to be unfolded, and somehow, Coach, to be in a recession, these professional sports keep finding money, even the collegiate sports. So we say, long live the sports world, right?
Hey, man, my wife is very much more into politics than I am, as her father was a politician. But she was saying it's mighty funny how a lot of people are complaining about the economy riding around in new cars. Are they complaining about the economy and they on vacation somewhere in a foreign country? They complaining about the economy, but they at the new house. It's just different things like that they are complaining about. But you like say they find something, they gonna find something to complain about either way. But like I say, it's ironic that happens, but the same people that are complaining are the same ones that are benefiting from it.
No doubt about it. I guess that's all a part of what makes the world go round, Coach.
Yes.
Look, I know that look, you've been a trooper, man. Your battery is holding up, so we're gonna allow you to have some closing thoughts and comments, man, as we get ready to shut this week's segment down.
Okay, so all right, so now, and I'll talk anybody that has a high school age kid, especially that a program where college other kids are getting recruited. Now is the time to sort of get their name out there. So, and then also too, if you're an alum of a certain school, and I know some people say, well, that's not my job, but if you see a kid that you think can help your particular university, don't be afraid to send that email, make that call, especially if you have a personal relationship with the coach. And I'll put, Adam is at the age where he is getting, I say, more recruited for academics than athletics right now, but I will put out calls to certain guys and say, hey, man, here's my son. But I also I'll put it like this. There's a kid that goes to school with my son whose dad played football at Alabama A&M. So I call the coaches at Alabama A&M and say, hey, here is a kid that plays football with my son. He has made all district since he's been in 10th grade. And for me, all district didn't mean much. But when you're playing in a district like Bridgeland is in Cypress, that may mean something. But I told the guy, look, man, his dad and his dad's brother both played at Alabama A&M. They are involved with the football program from a distance. Also, too, that kid went to camp at Alabama A&M a few years ago and liked it. So, look, here's this kid's information. Reach out to him and say, hey, man, we see what you are doing, and we want to let you know that we are interested in you as an athlete, because now he may be getting recruited now by the North Texas, the Stephen F. Austins of the world, so he doesn't have to see that as his only way out. So that's one of the things that I'll do. But at the same, I don't be selfish with and just talk about my son or my nephew. I'm speaking up for a lot of the kids that don't have somebody that can speak up for them. But at the same time, I'm very honest with the coaches. And like I say, the thing that used to bother me as a coach, when somebody called me and they're only talking about their kid, or they'll talk about the coach doesn't like my son. I'm like, nah, that's not the way it works in the football world. The other thing that I would tell fans of the schools is, maybe try to find out how can you help, even if it doesn't, I say, burden you financially. What can I do? Either some people, it may be talking to their company about making a donation to the athletic department / football program. You're a baseball guy. You may say, hey, man, how can the company that I work for donate $5,000 to Prairie View? And that may help them get over the hump to adding, backs, adding technology to the baseball program. And it may be virtual reality hitting stations, adding a certain tee, adding how can we measure spin velocity. That's how you improve your pitch. There's a lot of things that we as fans can do to help our programs without burdening our pockets, but also, that's our way of giving back. So, I sort of, get off on a tangent on that, because I know this time of year that college coaches are getting out, and a lot of times there may be a way you can find out and just say, I'll call Southern and say, hey, Coach Graves, what coach do you have in the Houston area that's coming out here? And it may be something that's saying, hey, man, I'll pay for a hotel room for a night or two. Or, hey, man, if he wants something to eat or drink, tell him, give me a call. I'll treat him. Just different things like that we can do to help our university. And I don't ask for anything back. I don't ask them to give my son a scholarship. I don't ask for a T-shirt, a hat, anything like that when I go. I'm going to go buy my stuff, so I don't want people saying he's doing this so he can get something on the back, or he's helping so we can recruit his son. Now, I'm just helping because, number one, I love the schools that I went to, I love the schools that I work at, and I love HBCUs, and I'll leave it at that.
Absolutely, and that's very well said, Coach. And always, man, we appreciate your insight, your knowledge, and your passion for our beloved Southwestern Athletic Conference. Now, I look forward to our next conversation, sir. And as they say, go HBCUs all across the country with this weekend's draft coming up. I am the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince. I want to thank you guys for joining in with us. Don't forget you can keep up with me on Twitter X at the Mike Prince Show. Our YouTube channel is the Open Mic Broadcast Network. And visit our website, obnradio.com. Before I get out of here for good, Coach, I know Prairie View and Southern will do battle on the Hill this weekend in baseball. I'm going to wish you a hearty good luck, but I'm not going to mean it, sir.
Hey, man. Hey, that's me and my sister all day. So whenever something happens between us, I'll like Grambling beat Southern at the Cactus Jack, and then we swept them in Grambling. And Southern came down here and got swept, and she was like, "Hey, did you see the Southern baseball score?" And I'll just text her back, "Who won the Bayou Classic?" So it's always that friendly rivalry that's going to go on amongst say all the cats always fighting each other.
I know that's right. I know that. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much. And until the next time, you all be blessed, and we'll see you on the other side.